I'm absolutely thrilled to be here with three people who need no introduction. I don't come from a design background or formally trained as a designer, so I was a bit
Neither
nervous.
do the three of us.
So brilliant. So I was very nervous that, what are the right...
I'm very formally trained. What do you mean?
well, super
I
seasoned.
am totally formally trained. I don't know about these two. What? Why am I here?
There wasn't a format in terms of what is the right question, but there were many things that I wanted to know, and I'm sure many of you would already know it, but it was fascinating speaking with you. One thing what I realized speaking to them, meeting them, and understanding was that their design is very emotional. They are very intuitive. They are very instinctive, and there's a personality in terms of design. There's a visual vocabulary which is so distinctive. Like for each one of you, we've probably used the footprint design of the cups that we have coffee in at home, or cushions which are scattered for many years from my mother's house, to Diwali gifts, etc., to clothes that we've worn or spaces that we've experienced, to beautiful houses that you've designed. So it's an honor to, jump right into a few questions. So Pinakin, your love language is design. We all know it. While you were talking to me about how it all started, and that there's been such a strong foundation of your guru, your mentor, Dasharatji, and how you sort of started it instinctively, with a very simple, pure process. So I would just want you to dive into and tell us a little bit about your journey and those pivotal moments which really made you feel that, yes, this is it for me,
Okay. It's a long story. I'll try to condense it as much as I can for an afternoon like this. So I started off studying chemistry because I was planning a career in petrochemicals. And in the first 2-3 years of work, I realized that that was not my forte, and it wasn't too late to change. And I sat in my garage and started dabbling with a few home accessories. And I said, I'll put up a store for that. And I chose to call it etc. because etc. would allow me to keep adding things as and when I learnt them. And funnily enough, by the time the store was set up, people who came to the store said, will you come home and set it all up together? Then we are interested in buying the whole ensemble. And that made me an interior designer. Once when I was doing Rahul Bajaj's house in Pune, and for 6 months the plans wouldn't get resolved, I told him that, Rahul, it's because we're running out of space. You need to call an architect and get him to expand the house. And he says, no, I'm not meeting anybody else. You become the architect. So I said, Rahul, I'm not an architect. So he says, वैसे तो साला तू interior designer भी नहीं है. So that way, I feel the clients have always spotted what I should do, and they've allowed me to freewheel from a career, then going from architecture to art, to cinema, theater design, and so on and so forth, fashion. And I've enjoyed the process, which was basically a search for beauty.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we spoke something very beautiful about the Eastern philosophy and the Western philosophy of design. I mean, if you could just tell us very briefly about it, because it's very beautiful in terms of narration when you were describing it.
So, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, because I'm self-taught, I see the difference in design between the East and West long before I get into the graphics and the paisleys and the colors and the vibrancy. I feel that there is a primary difference in our approach to design, where in the West, you design from the mind, and you design knowing that you have to make something terribly beautiful. It has to be sold at huge overheads, so it has to be economically priced within that strata. And all those pressures put together have kind of rationalized the whole process to a level where I feel that in Eastern culture, I realize that if you only keep perfecting beauty you know, and if you keep perfecting all your finishes and your lacquers and your floors, imperfection is a part of nature. And, you know, you cannot try and gloss it up to the level that we see in the West. And that kind of beauty only tends to multiplicity. By the time you finished one, you feel you find a flaw in the other. Then you improve that and you want 3 more of that. Whereas at some stage, especially with my move to Alibag and a life within nature, I realized that if I merely change the orientation of that search to, instead of search for beauty, to search for the sublime, the will was quenched, because though beauty ends up as a final product in the material medium, it does stem from the spiritual.
If I may just also add to that, you know, this idea of being taught, this is a very Western idea. This idea that somehow we learn in a linear fashion, that things are broken down. I think the truth is that we learn from the moment we're born, we absorb, and that's the beauty of our culture. I mean, when Vinita walks in the garden and shares all that with us, that's learning. You know, when Pinakin perfects something, that's learning, you know. I think when I'm sketching or drawing or writing or thinking, that's learning. You know, we don't think of it as input and output. It's a process of living.
But something very beautiful which I usually observe in your practices or what you do is an interesting narrative of how you put down the storytelling, you know, in a India context or craft context or whatever you were working on. So that's like one medium which comes very naturally to you. You've been very eminent in terms of celebrating modern Indian design. So what do you think a tastemaker really is in the most real aspect in today's world, considering there is so much noise around trends and Instagram and Pinterest, etc. You know, so that your projects, your designs, everything is sort of distinctive. So tell us a little bit what the hybrid practice that we sort of spoke about.
Well, I think tastemaker is a very, very big word. But to me, the singular thing about tastemakers, and I'm sharing the stage here with two that I really respect and admire, is authenticity. I think ultimately taste is about having a point of view and having it grounded in an ethos. Ours happens to be Indian.
Right.
The subcontinent has given us so much, such a rich sort of density of ideas and experiences. But ultimately, I think every individual is a tastemaker.
Right.
Because those of us who have the ability to find our voice and express it, that's what taste making is all about. I think it's not prescriptive.
Right.
Vinita's taste is different from Pinakin's, which is different from mine and yours. But maybe what comes through is a certain passion, an excitement, a way of living, and that's what good taste is.
And Vinita, for you, of course, we see your wonderful Instagram and, you know, all the beautiful projects that you do. As per you, what are the key elements which really makes the process tasteful and you know, or contribute to the idea of a project being tasteful?
It's a very difficult question. A project being tasteful to my eyes may not be very tasteful to somebody else's eyes. And for me, my projects are totally directed by what the client dreams of. So I do projects of different genres. The other day somebody said, oh, we can see that this is a Vinita Chaitanya home. And I said, no, you really can't, because I've done homes over, I don't know how many years, I'm too old to remember, but it's like I've done many homes, and I think each home is individual to the person. And what I try to bring in is a sense of style, is a sense of a particular flow or a direction. A lot of it comes from the architecture and the surroundings.
Right.
So I dream of working within a jungle and sort of bringing that into the house, but most of the time we're in the city, and luckily we're in Bangalore. We can explore. We have massive projects, like 20, 30,000 square feet of home and gardens. I mean, I'm working on a project which is over 25 acres, and it's a home. So we've actually planted there 500 trees. We've done a forest. We've done an area just to gaze and look into the sky, and it's our star deck. And so I try and bring in that vibe for a particular client. So I don't know if I actually feel maybe I help the client to understand their own style better. I might direct them in the right way or the right path. And but ultimately, it's what Eeshan wants to wear, this beautiful graphic printed shirt with his khakis, so be it. I might put an additional patch or a fold, or that beautiful collar, or I might sort of vibe up the hat. But yeah, it's going to be Eeshan ultimately, and hopefully styled into a little bit of a VC direction.
But is there a creative process that you follow? Usually, I know it's probably a very boring question that you would probably be asked, but a method or a process how you sort of put it together, and for all of you, in fact, I mean, they're all so different.
If you're talking about a process while you're doing a home, it's just typically, you walk into a space. I think it's raining, right? You walk into a space, you see the architecture, you see the spaces, you see the light flowing in, which is hugely important. For me, it's all about getting inspired by the space. And then you sort of, obviously, you're listening to the client, so that's a huge earful. So you listen to the client, you listen to each one in their house. So it's a very emotional process. You are literally listening to their dreams, and a lot of times I find them so passionate and about, this is their first home, and I've done homes over the generations. So I've done the first home right now for a grandparent, a parent, and the kid. So yeah, so it's everybody's home, and it's everybody's passions, which then drives me to design the space. And then the space is obviously designed by their lifestyle. So, you want a puja room in the center of your living room, so be it. You want a puja room right next to your dining room, so be it. Right. I'm not going to tell you, tuck your puja room so that nobody can see it. You tell me, this is the way I live, and I will tell you, I will design a beautiful world around the way you live.
Are there any fun, interesting, weird requests, maybe one to sort of highlight without giving too many details, anything that really makes you smile?
Oh, I have a lot of requests which make me laugh, not just smile. But I listen. Sometimes I listen and then decide to block it out, but I listen. But yeah.
It's interesting, if I could just add to what Vinita is saying, is that often when you create a home, like anything else, it's a relationship. So it's the balance of what you bring as a professional with your eye, with your life's experience and understanding. And it's what they bring with their emotion, their life's journeys, as Vinita said so rightly, their hopes and aspirations. And I don't know if many people know this, but I actually started out, I'm not a trained designer, and I started out going to Alibag, and Pinakin and Dolly were very, very, very kind. They would allow me to come with my 4-month-old baby. He's turning 23. And I would spend time with Pinakin and with Dashrath Bhai. And when I asked Dashrath Bhai, what does a designer do? What is design? He said, design is time.
Right.
And I said, what does that mean? And now, 23 years later, I can understand that what that means is respect for journeys. You know, whether it's the journey of the client,
Right.
the journey of the maker, the craftsperson, the carpenter on the site, the plumber, the electrician, or our individual journeys and what we bring to it. It's all of those things that go into the mix. And that's why we can't replace each other, you know, because ultimately design that endures or taste that endures needs time. It
Right.
needs that gestation of time. I mean, we are all evolving all the time. And I think one of the things that you'll see in all of our work, if I can say that, is that we've all responded to the world around us.
Absolutely.
You know,
I-
what Pinakin's done with his, I mean, he started using materials like PU way before we knew how to do it, and he perfected it. He brought that
Atelier, I mean, the
aesthetic.
entire idea of atelier
Yeah.
and working with the artist, I think.
And
that's
I
sort
think
of-
Vinita's language of using inlay, but taking it out of the traditional context, changing the scale of it, giving it this larger than life magnificence is something amazing.
Right.
And I have been, you know, working on a dream project for the last
I was,
3
the,
years.
my question was just right about it. Tell us what you're working on, and it's
It's a big moment. It's a big reveal. I hope
I'm
everyone's
insisting
listening.
and pushing for the big reveal, but tell us what you're working on, and we're very
Well,
excited.
it
to hear.
really is an incredible privilege. And I think that I'm just so grateful to be in the right place at the right time. And you know, every era needs patrons and patronage.
Right.
You know, 100 years ago it was the Rajas and the Maharajas, you know. And today it's really big corporations, corporates who have, who want to make a mark not just on the economy but on culture. And I think
Right.
it's been an incredible journey with Asian Paints, and of course spearheaded by the very dynamic Amit Singhal, who, let me tell you, rumor has it he doesn't sleep, and I can tell you that is true. You know, Amit has a word, it's unemulatable. And that's what we've set out to do with this new project. And I'm announcing it right now. There are some amazing people in the room who are deeply connected with it. Manju, who's right here. The project is 100,000 square feet, design destination in Bombay. Not just the first of its kind in India, but the first of its kind in the world, because it brings together the best of global design in furniture, in lighting, in bath, in kitchen, but embedded within that is something that we on the inside call the heart,
Right.
which is the best of global craftsmanship. And I think finally, after 3,000 years of Indian history in design, finally we're attempting to create a space where you see the best of Indian design through the last 3,000 years. So you see modern makers juxtaposed with Chola bronzes. I'm not going to tell you more because then you
When
guys
is it?
may not come.
We'll mark the calendar.
Yeah,
so-
please mark the calendar. And what it is really a collection of stories.
Right.
It's the stories of makers, it's the stories of places, it's the stories of craft, it's our stories as designers, it's the stories of the people that we hope will be part of the community. It's called Nilaya Anthology, and we will open in December. Now I've said it, there's no going back on
Well,
it. We have to do it.
Great. We
But really a dream project with over
Sounds
100 makers from all over the world,
Right.
from Glasgow to Kyoto to Ghana to Maheshwar. It's really been 3 years of hard work by an amazing team. And it's one of those great things, either we will soar or you'll find us at the bottom of the ocean, but come December we shall know.
Just in reference to this question for Pinakin, you know, something like this, which is now coming in as a platform to celebrate craftsmanship. How do you navigate the balance between the current design, just from your point of view, to the timelessness in terms of what's been there? Right now, there's so much visual noise, and trends come, some work, some don't. How do you sort of, you know, ideate and put your projects or ideas out? I mean,
it's very simple because even though socio-economic factors change, and they have changed hell of a lot. In fact, every design cycle in the world has been driven by socio-economic changes. So mid-century modernism came after the World War II, when whole Europe was destructed and it had to be rebuilt in a rush. So you couldn't build it in any other way but concrete and glass and industrial materials. And a house became a machine to live in. And similarly, it was the stress of the investment bankers in America in the 90s that brought about this strong wave for minimalism, where you hid all the clutters behind large Wenge shutters and you experience sort of Zen. So whatever is the time, I try to sort of read that time and absorb that time and interpret it, merely interpret it in relevance to the project that is happening at that time. So I will tell people, for example, that ab Italian marble bahut ho gaya na, even panwalas have Italian marble. So let's look for an alternative.
Right.
So it's a very natural process of elimination.
right. Thank you.
Thank you so much. This was super exciting, and thank you all for sharing your thoughts and insights. Thank you.